Hello and welcome to today's post-graduation work permit information session, October 10th, 2024. My name is Teresa Inacio. I'm a registered Canadian immigration consultant at Acadia University. The information in this presentation is accurate as of the date of the presentation. Policies and programs are subject to change. So for further updates, please consult www.cic.gc.ca. In today's presentation, we'll be looking at the following items: eligibility and validity, study permit matters in relation to your postgrad work permit, how and when to apply, the required documents and forms, how to apply and how to navigate the system online, working before and after you apply, travel, and the post-graduation work permit. The eligibility for the post-graduation work permit is the following. You need to complete a study program at Acadia that is at least 8 months long or longer and lead to a degree, diploma, or certificate. During the completion of your study program, you needed to maintain a full-time registered status in all the required academic terms laid out by your department, with the exception of the final term, which can be part-time, or if you took an approved leave of absence from Acadia. If distance learning is allowed in your program, it must have not exceeded 50% of the program. Throughout your time at Acadia in completing your program, you should have had a valid study permit. You should also have a valid study permit at the time of receiving your grades and when you apply for the postgrad work permit. Effective November 1st, 2024, all postgraduate applications must also include a language test score. The Canadian Language Benchmark CBL 7 will be required to have been met, or higher grade, for all university graduates. The language test options are as follows. You can complete a CELPIP exam, general test, or an IELTS test, general training option as well, or a Pearson test, which is Pearson core option. CBL 7 is equivalent to the following test scores depending on the test that you take. Please note that all tests are valid for 2 years. So if you've completed one within the last 2 years, it may still be valid, and you may be able to submit that with your post-graduation work permit. The length of the post-graduation work permit depends on the validity or the length of your program, up to a maximum of 3 years. For those who are in the graduate level programs that are 8 months at minimum, but less than 2 years, you are eligible for a 3-year work permit, provided, of course, that you meet all the other remaining criteria of the postgrad work permit. For those of you in degree programs at the undergraduate level, 2 years or longer, you too may be able to be issued a 3-year work permit, provided that you meet all the other requirements. If your passport is about to expire within 3 years, at the time of the application, you will need to apply again to obtain the remaining time. Other matters related to the postgrad work permit. The postgrad work permit is considered an open work permit, which means that it allows you to work in Canada and get Canadian work experience, specifically for PR purposes. You may be able to work anywhere with any employer, multiple jobs, but however, you might have some restrictions with respect to where you work. If you are in healthcare, education, or agriculture, you may need an immigration medical exam, or else restrictions will be noted on your work permit. There are no restrictions on hours with respect to the postgrad work permit. However, the post-graduation work permit is a one-time opportunity, so you can only apply once. So please be strategic. if you're planning to apply for another degree program, please make sure that you think about when would be the best time to apply, after your undergrad or after your graduate program. Other study permit considerations. If you finish your studies early, your study permit will actually stop being valid 90 days after you complete your studies. Even though your study permit indicates that validity may be longer, it will expire 90 days after you receive your completion letter from the registrar's office. In the event if your study permit is expired and you want to submit a post-graduation work permit, you can do one of the following. You could leave Canada and apply for your post-graduation work permit from home, or you could restore your status within 90 days of the expiry date of your study permit, or within those 90 days. However, the restoration does cost an extra fee, $379, in addition to the regular cost of the post-graduation work permit. Please note, if you do restore your status and apply for the post-graduation work permit, you cannot work while waiting for the post-graduation work permit to be processed. When should I apply for the post-graduation work permit? There are two options available, and each option does have its pros and cons. If you apply within 90 days of receiving your written notification of completing your degree and your study permit is still valid, if your study permit, of course, expires before the 90 days, you need to apply before that time. If you choose this option, you have the ability to work full-time immediately after you apply for the postgrad work permit, of course, provided that you meet all the eligibility requirements. Your other option is to apply within 180 days from the day you receive your confirmation of degree completion. But if you apply inside Canada, you must change your status to visitor before the 90 days is up. For those who apply within that 180 days time, unfortunately, you do not have the ability to start working after you apply for the postgrad work permit. Applying outside of Canada. If you have or have to go home or finish your studies from your home country, you can apply for your postgrad work permit from there. The study permit does not need to be valid at the time of the application. However, it did need to be valid throughout your studies. You must apply, of course, within the 180 days from completing the program or from receiving your letter of degree completion. You must also include a letter of explanation to the officer as to why you're applying from outside Canada. How to apply online from inside Canada. To apply online, you need to prepare for the following documents: program completion letter, your official transcript, valid study permit, passport and digital photo, and a medical exam if required. Please note each document that needs to be uploaded here must be at least 4 megabytes or less, or else it will not be uploaded. Just a reminder, as of November 1st, you will also need to be submitting your language test scores. In addition, an IMM form is required, IMM 5710. There may be other additional forms, and your personal checklist will identify if any other forms need to be completed. Applying online generally follows the following steps. After you've received your final grades are posted, you can request your program completion letter and official transcript from the Office of the Registrar. While waiting for grades and/or your documents, you can get your post-graduation application guides from the Wong International Center and they will help you guide you on how to answer the eligibility questions online and how to fill out your IMM 5710 form. You log into your GCKey account and start the post-graduation application process using the guide. Fill in the IMM form and gather your documents. Please note, a letter of explanation may be necessary, and we'll discuss this more in detail in the next slide. It's also a good idea to have your postgrad work permit application reviewed by one of the advisors at the Wong Center. The medical exam, of course, may be required for those of you who are looking to work in a healthcare setting, education, or agriculture. Payment for the post-graduation work permit costs $155 for the open work permit itself, and the work permit holder fee is an additional $100, making it a total of $255 Canadian. This can be paid online using your credit card. So when do you provide a letter of explanation? If you are part-time throughout your studies, except the final term, that would be a good time to explain to the immigration officer why you needed to be part-time, or perhaps a leave of absence occurred during your studies, or perhaps you finished your program a lot faster. There may be other situations that you may need to explain so the officer can fully understand your situation. Once you create this letter of explanation, it can be uploaded under Optional Documents, Client Information. The online steps begin with you logging into your immigration account, as noted here, or through your sign-in partner. Once you log in, you start on Apply to Come to Canada. That's how you start your application. I know it sounds a little bit off, but that's how you start your application. From there, after applying to come to Canada, you scroll down until you see Visitor Visa, Study and/or Work. As you can see here, you click on the following. From there, you will see the eligibility questionnaire pop up. The Wong Center has detailed guides on how to answer the tricky questions on the eligibility questionnaire. Once you complete the eligibility questionnaire, the online system will generate the appropriate application based on your responses. Hopefully, your results will be the following. The post-graduation work permit in Canada should show up on your screen as noted here. A document checklist will then be created for you. That essentially is your application for the post-graduation work permit. It will list the forms you need to complete, the supporting documents, and any other optional documents. Please note, Schedule 1 does not need to be completed unless you served military service in your home country. The IMM form tends to be a tricky form to fill out. As a result, we do also have an online guide in order to help you fill out the questions on this form. This form is a PDF document and needs to be read by an Adobe Acrobat Reader. Without that Adobe Acrobat Reader, you will not be able to see the document or complete the document online. Once it's completed, you need to validate the document, and once validation is complete, a 6th page with barcodes will be created. At this time, you will save the document and have it ready for uploading. Step 3. Once you've completed the IMM form and gathered all these supporting documents, you're ready to proceed with payment. You upload all your forms and transmit. Please note the digital signature becomes your security answer, which will be prompted for you after you submit the document. It's also a very good idea to save or print your confirmation of successful transition for your records. Lastly, after you submit your application, please check your email on a regular basis and monitor any emails from IRCC in your junk folder or any other folder. If you are contacted, please make an appointment with an advisor at the Wong Center to ensure you respond accurately and punctually to the IRCC request. Work conditions before and after the post-graduation application. So if you apply, so the working conditions before you submit your application are the following. Students who have not applied for a subsequent study permit for a new program of study, you can work 20 hours a week on campus, unlimited hours if you meet all the requirements below. So you should have an off-campus authorization requirements on your study permit. Hopefully you've also had maintained a full-time status throughout all of your terms, except the final term, of course, and that you did not work more than 20 hours per week while you were studying. Lastly, you completed your program of study, but you have not yet received your letter from the registrar's office that indicates you've completed your degree program. So before you submit your postgrad work permit, you can continue to work as if you were a student, essentially. However, when do you stop to work? Once that letter is issued and you receive it from the registrar's office, technically you are no longer authorized to continue to work in Canada, as you no longer meet the eligibility criteria listed on your study permit, which is the RRPR 186B. If you want details on this regulation, please click on the following URL sites. Of course, after you finish and submit your post-graduation work permit, you can work full-time while waiting for the post-graduation work permit to be processed. Of course, you need to meet the following conditions. Your study permit was valid at the time of the submission. You met all the off-campus work authorization requirements. You maintain that full-time status except for the final semester. If you've met all these requirements, you can begin working while waiting. For additional information on this requirements, please visit the 2 links below that will fully explain your ability to work after. Unfortunately, processing time can be long. The average time for the processing of your post-graduation work permit is 130 days. However, these days can also be inconsistent. There are some students who receive it earlier and some receive it a little bit later, and there's no reason why this happens. Please note the latest update was October 9th, and this is updated weekly. If you're looking and want to know the processing times, please visit the link below. After you submit your postgrad work permit application online, you may receive a letter from IRCC confirming that the postgrad work permit application has been received. You will also receive an acknowledgement letter, and it proves that you've authorized to keep working even if the 120-day validity period of the letter itself has expired. More often than not, many students are confused by this letter, and in this case, please note that the expiry date of that letter noted on there does not mean you need to stop working. If you are looking for an additional letter that demonstrates your ability to continue to work, you can always reach out to IRCC and request another acknowledgement letter. If you have not received a decision on your postgrad work permit application after that specific date, you can still continue to work until a decision has been made, as I mentioned, if you meet all the requirements, of course, at the time of the application. If your employer asks for proof after the expiry date of that letter, you can also email or through a web form and request IRCC to give you an additional letter that shows that you're authorized to work while waiting for your postgrad work permit to be processed. For more details about this, please visit the 2 links below. If you are looking to show proof of authorization to work to your employer, you can provide them with the following documents: proof that you completed your program of study, such as a completion letter and your official transcripts. You can show a copy of your study permit with the authorization noted on it. You can also show your letter of confirmation that your postgrad work permit was received. And you can also show the date of the application was submitted within that 90-day period, and of course before the study permit expired. Students who usually need to show this, or I should say graduates who need to show this to their employers, are usually quite successful in showing these documents to their employers. For more information about this, please visit the 2 links below. An often question asked to me is whether I can travel after I apply for the post-graduation work permit. And the answer is absolutely. You can travel outside of Canada and return. However, to return, you need to have a valid temporary resident visa or an electronic travel authorization. And either the visa or the ETA is based on your nationality. So for those of you who already have a TRV noted in your passport, you don't need electronic travel authorization. So in order to return back, you do need to have a valid visa or ETA in order to come back, even if your study permit is no longer valid. So if you're looking to check whether your study permit, your temporary resident visa or your ETA is still valid, you can check the following website below, or of course your passport for your TRV, and see if it's valid. The officer, however, may ask at the border what your intentions are in coming back to Canada. And at this point, you can indicate to the officer that you have since completed your program and that you're coming back to apply for your post-graduation work permit. I recommend that if you do leave, that you return back within the 90-day period. How about your spouse or partner? What happens to them when you become a postgraduate work permit holder? Your spouse or common law partner can't continue working until their current work permit expires. So just to let you know, if you do have a spouse or a partner who has a work permit whose expiry date is still in the future, perhaps 2026 or 2027, they can continue working even though you've already applied for a postgrad work permit or already received a postgrad work permit. Before their work permit expires, however, the spouse or the common law partner can only apply under the following conditions. You, as the postgrad work permit holder, should be working in a job that either is a tier 1, 2, or 3 skilled job for us, and the postgrad work permit should be valid for a minimum of 6 months. Of course, as a postgrad work permit holder, if you are eligible under the Atlantic Immigration Program in a job under tier 1, 2, or 3, or 4, that may be also an opportunity for your spouse or common law partner to apply for an extension of their work permit. The following documents would be required when your partner or spouse applies for an extension of their work permit: a letter from your current employer confirming your employment, and a copy of the employment offer and or contract. A scanned copy of your postgrad work permit as well is needed. Note, a spouse or a common law partner cannot resume working until their new permit is issued. Here are some tips when applying for your postgrad work permit. I strongly recommend that you do apply within 90 days and do not wait. If your study permit is not valid for at least 1 month after finishing your last term, I would recommend that you extend your study permit as soon as possible. So as of now, if you see that your study permit is expiring at the end of December or early January, apply now for an extension. You do not apply for the postgrad work permit while waiting for a study permit extension to be processed. Wait, no guarantee that the study permit will be linked with the postgrad work permit. So if you have applied for a postgrad work permit extension, perhaps last month or the month before, you still need to continue to wait for the application to be processed and the study permit issued. There are students in the past who've applied for the postgrad work permit before that study permit was issued, and some did not fare well while the others did. It is therefore very risky for you to apply for the postgrad work permit without having a study permit that is valid at that time. Be mindful of when your passport expires. If your home consulate allows you to extend your passport, I would investigate it and apply if you can. Monitor your email for IRCC messages. If you're requested to send additional documents, come to the Wong Center for assistance. When IRCC does email you and asks you for a document, they always give you a very tight timeline, normally 5 or 7 days. If you fail to submit the document correctly, this will lead to a refusal. So please reach out for assistance. For additional postgraduate work permit resources, please visit the link here. Here you will find information about validity, the application, eligibility requirements, eligible programs, and of course, applicants who travel. If you need to contact IRCC, you can do it one of two ways. You can complete the IRCC web inquiry form, either inside or outside Canada, or you can call the call center inside Canada only. Ideally, you can call at 8 in the morning is usually the best time to call and reach them. You will see that there's a lot of agents that are busy and you may not get into the queue. So I recommend that you keep calling until you get in the queue and then be prepared to wait quite a bit of time. It could be up to 1 hour or more. Lastly, for immigration support, please look towards the Wong International Center. Here we are located at 27 Acadia Street, which I'm sure many of you have attended and have been. You can reach out to us either by telephone or email to set up an appointment, or you can drop by and visit Janet, which is a regulated immigration student, immigration advisor, and you can also meet with Deanna, who was there to support you as well. I want to now take the opportunity to thank you for participating in this session. If you have any additional questions or concerns, please reach out to us at international@acadiau.ca. Thank you for your time.